The Habs' best goalie prospect might just be someone you have never ever heard of, as he is dominating in Russia at his age. We'll be diving into him and how he could be maybe a future netminder for the Montreal Canadiens. Plus, another Habs D prospect in the KHL, Bogdan Konyushkov, is #1 in points for defensemen at his age. Some crazy stuff, and you're going to learn a lot more about these two unknown prospects on this episode of Habs Digest. We want to jump first into maybe the most underrated Habs prospect. This is a guy that we haven't even mentioned on the channel before, but because of his recent play, we decided to start talking about him, and that is Yevgeni Volokhin. And you've probably never heard of him, but let's just show you his stats. Yevgeni Volokhin's a 6'3" goalie. He was picked in the 5th round of the 2023 NHL draft. He's currently playing in the MHL, which is the junior league in Russia. Then MHL goes up to the VHL, which is the equivalent to the AHL, and then, of course, KHL after that. So he's currently in the MHL, a junior league. But he has a 9-2-4 record with a 1.53 GAA and a 939 save percentage. And as someone pointed out on Reddit, Jesse, this actually compares very well to other current NHL players, as Xhekaj posted this. Vasilevsky in the MHL in their draft plus 1 year. 927 save in 30 games. Sorokin, 922 and 11. Askarov, 939 in 9 games. Shesterkin, 915 and 16. Kochetkov, 917 and 31. I mean, so far, if you include sample size, Yevgeni Volokhin is actually above these guys. Now, a lot of those guys had time in the KHL in this season, but man, it's really inspiring. I never even had this guy on my radar.
This is amazing company, you know, the likes of some of the best goalies in the world right now, Shesterkin, Sorokin, Vasilevsky. This is really the cream of the crop. And it seems like, you know, I'm sorry to my fellow, you know, French Canadians, you know, it seems like the Russians have really taken the mantle of the best goalies in the world. So it kind of makes sense why we drafted a goalie. And you know what, Josh? I'm so happy we did, because it's my favorite position. And I feel like we drafted a couple really good ones. Like, it's not only Volokhin that's playing so good this year so far, Quentin Miller with the Quebec Remparts is playing very well. Jacob Fowler is off to a great start as well. You have to feel like one of these guys is really going to break through and can be the answer for the Habs in nets, which is amazing. You know, like, it's so amazing right now seeing Volokhin at such a young age. He's got the best GAA in the league right now.
Yeah, it's in the goalies, like you said, this was clearly part of the mission statement heading into the draft. The Habs wanted to get some goalies. They were like, this is a problem going forward, and they were not sure about Jakub Dobeš. While he had a great NCAA season, he has been off to a rough start with the Laval Rocket. I think his save percentage is currently below an 870. I'm sure he'll bounce back. He'll have some time to figure it out. Again, goalies' trajectories are always really, really weird. But also, goalies can come out of nowhere in the later rounds. I mean, look at Monty. Monty was a 3rd-round pick, but look at Cayden Primeau, a former 7th-round pick. Like, it's rare that goalies go early in the draft. Of course, we have the likes of Carey Price, and, you know, you have lots of other guys who are really, really high picks. But at the same time, like, just because he's a 5th-round pick doesn't necessarily mean it's that bad. And with a case like Volokhin, the only thing you can really hope for this year, Jesse, is I really hope he makes that jump to the KHL. Now, I don't really know a lot about the Russian league structures. Let me know down below if you guys understand how the MHL, VHL, and KHL work for jumping back and forth. Because I know, for example, Matvei Michkov played a lot in the MHL, and now he's in the KHL, right? And there's just kind of like this, I don't know if you can just swap back and forth, but I think if we can see Volokhin in some KHL games, and if he continues this pace, I mean, is it crazy to say that he can just jump up the ranks of Habs prospects very quick if he has like even 5-10 very good games in the KHL?
Well, he should project to play a couple games in the KHL this year, which is going to be so great for his development. So, of course, that's going to shoot him up right away. And I really think that Evgeny, you know, Volokhin is ready for this, because if you look at his numbers from the past couple of years, it's been good for a while now, kind of hovering around that 2.0 GAA. He's been playing well, but he's playing some of his best numbers, putting up some of his best numbers right now when it really counts. So it's seeming like he can handle the pressure, you know, which is seeming like a really good sign for his development going forward.
Yeah, again, maybe the biggest concern with him, he's a bit of a string bean. He's like 6'3", 160. So maybe he could eat a few more burgers or something, eat some more borscht. You know, that's a lot of Russian guys' favorite meals. But yeah, pretty crazy stats from him again. Not even on our radar. Yevgeni Volokhin, keep an eye on him because he could come out of nowhere to jump up the Habs prospect rankings. But this other guy we have talked about, and he's one of our favorites, Bogdan, as Jesse has coined him, the Bug Dominator. This guy is, admit that's what he's doing. He's just purely dominating. In a recent article on Fansided talking about some Habs prospects that have really impressed this year, they mentioned Bogdan Konyushkov, and he was an unheard of prospect when the Habs drafted him. And as I actually didn't know until I read this, I maybe should have known this, but he was actually eligible in both the 21 and 22 NHL entry drafts. But he was finally drafted in 23 by the Montreal Canadiens, and boy, has he been impressing. I mean, you look at these stats, you can see the VHL and the MHL there, right? The junior league, like I was just talking about, and the VHL being the sort of AHL of Russia. And he was doing fine. But again, like kind of an overager playing in the playoffs in the MHL in 22-23. No one really liked him. But the Habs decided to take a chance, and he has 18 points in 35 games this year for Torpedo Nizhny Novgorod. But not only that, take a look at the top 20 of D-man scoring this year. And you see right there, tied at 10 with Yegor Yakovlev, is Bogdan Konyushkov at 18 points in 35 games. Top 10 in points for D-men in the KHL. But take a look at the age. He is the youngest player in the entire top 20 for D-man scores. The only guys here that really come close are Ryan Merkley, a former first-round draft pick of the NHL for the Sharks, who is now apparently over in Russia. Alexander Nikishin at the top of the list, who's a former third-round pick of the Carolina Hurricanes a couple of years ago. Jesse Bogdan, like we thought maybe it's just a hot start. Maybe he's going to slow down eventually. Well, he has cooled off mildly. He's continuing like a crazy pace for a guy his age and a guy that was missed out on in 2 drafts.
And what's so cool is we're finally starting to get D-men that can really put the puck in the back of the net. We know with the Habs right now, we're actually leading the league in goals from defensemen. You know, surprising, I know, but it's amazing to see of a lot of our prospects with Konyushkov, who's putting off half a point per game right now. We also have Lane Hudson. We got Reinbacher, all kind of looking like entering the equation, maybe at similar times, somewhat. So it's actually really encouraging to see this from our young guys here. You know, it's like, it seems like he just keeps getting better offensively, like as he's progressing. You know, as he gets bigger responsibility, as more it's getting asked of him, you know, he's able to really handle it. But I feel like a part of this is like, you know, being passed up on the draft for 2 years, it kind of put like a little bit of like a chip on his shoulder. Mm-hmm. You know, big shoulders that you don't want to get hit by, but like similar to a guy like Jacob Fowler, where it's like, you know, they got that fire. They got that chip on their shoulder, maybe not having been selected in the past, while feeling like they were playing pretty good hockey, right? So it's just amazing that that these young guys, like, they're panning out. And I think, you know, so far we got to tip our hat to a lot of the scouts for the Habs that selected these guys.
Yeah, they're just like, they're kind of like not even on the radar picks, right? Like again, Bogdan Konyushkov, I'd say if you asked most like draft analysts, they might have heard his name, would have never thought he got drafted. Habs were like, no, we'll take a chance and look at what he's doing. I mean, I don't know if there's like, look, again, it's not like these guys have performed at the NHL level yet. And obviously that's the ultimate test, but we can only hope that that'll come from here, right? And again, though, the Russian contract situations are weird because Bogdan's there for at least another 3 years because he signed his contract. We've kind of talked about maybe they could figure out a way out of that. Not sure, but as of now, his contract for 3 more years. It is what it is. Volokhin, I'm not sure of his contract situation. It could be very similar. Maybe he won't be eligible to come over until his early mid-20s. But at the same time, like, you're right, Jesse. I think it's sort of a new era in Habs scouting, and I showed a little graphic a little while ago of the Habs like 2007 to kind of 2016, 2017 drafts, and they were below average in a lot of cases. But look, and I don't want to get too high on our prospects, and I don't want to say, oh, this draft was like the best thing ever, but it's extremely encouraging. Like, how many teams can even say that they're keeping an eye on like their 5th round draft picks of the year, like constantly? We got Joshua Waugh was a 5th round pick, Volokhin, and Bogdan was like a late round pick as well. Like, how many teams even can say, wow, these guys are performing way above expectations for these late picks? And it's not many.
Absolutely. Like, for Konyushkov to be putting up so many points while being a defenseman and so young, you know, it's very impressive while eating so many minutes. Like, what more can you really ask for, you know? It's really amazing. Like, a lot of GMs, make no mistake, when you get a guy in the 5th round that's producing like that, if you're a GM, you're kicking yourself. You're wishing and thinking to yourself, I should have picked that guy. So, I mean, that's why we should really be happy with a lot of our prospects, because if we're looking across the board right now, many of our prospects are playing very well right now, which is extremely encouraging. Like you almost expect for a couple to kind of fall through the cracks, but a lot of like our main guys, a lot of our main prospects playing very well. And obviously there's a big caveat between that and making the NHL all the same, but that's all you can do though, right? Is all you can do is produce at the league you're in. And we're absolutely seeing that 100% from so many of our young prospects. Not only are they producing well, but we just have so many of them. So what looks like already the best prospect pool in the NHL, which make no mistake about it, is the Montreal Canadiens, is just getting better day by day.
Yeah, 100%. It's just awesome to see this. And like you said, Jesse, we all understand, like, we are not here to say these guys are going to be bona fide NHLers. Let's just clarify. That's not what we're saying. What we are saying is, like you just said, they're producing at the level, at, like, where they can produce. They're in this league and they're producing where they can. They're showing everything that they can show. And that's really encouraging for us Habs fans. It should be encouraging to you too. So let us know if you enjoyed this little different video talking about Bogdan Konyushkov and Yevgeni Volokhin, because they're guys that kind of fly under the radar for a lot of Habs fans. But we think it's very important to highlight even the not so well-known prospects. And you know, there's a bunch of those out there. We haven't really talked a lot about Adam Engstrom this year. Vincent Rohrer has been playing well. There's so many guys that we could talk about, but these guys kind of stood out for today. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Same thing at the end of every video, but we really appreciate every single one of you that sticks around to this point to hear me say that every single day. Sincerely, thank you. I'm Josh Goss for my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.